Evelyn Ashcombe had not set foot in Ravenscar for nearly a decade. The narrow, winding lanes of the village clung to the edge of the Yorkshire coast, where cliffs met the grey sea in a ceaseless, restless dance. She tightened her grip on the steering wheel as the familiar stone cottages and the ancient church spire came into view. Ravenscar Hall, the old family estate, stood like a shadow from a forgotten past. Weathered stone walls and overgrown gardens whispered of years left untouched. Evelyn's heart quickened. The house held memories. Some warm, many cold. She had returned to settle her late father's affairs, but deep inside, a different part of her stirred. The house had been empty since her mother left years ago. The villagers still spoke of the Ashcombe family in hushed tones, recalling stories of pride, scandal, and silence. Evelyn parked her car beneath the towering oaks and stepped out into the chill wind. Clara, her bright-eyed daughter, clutched her hand tightly. The years away had not diminished the heaviness that hung in the air. Inside, the hall was dim and silent. Dust motes floated in the shafts of afternoon light. Evelyn ran her fingers along the carved banister, memories flickering like shadows. It was in the library that she found it, a portrait, hidden behind a thick velvet curtain. A woman's face stared back at her, pale and haunting, dressed in garments from another century. The resemblance was startling. Evelyn's breath caught. Who was this woman? Why had the painting been concealed for so long? As she reached out to touch the frame, a sudden noise echoed from the corridor. Clara squeezed her hand tighter. Evelyn turned. Somewhere in the house, someone was waiting. The sound faded as quickly as it had come. Evelyn took a deep breath and led Clara away from the library and down the corridor. The house seemed to groan with its own secrets, the wooden floorboards creaking under their feet. Evelyn's mind raced. Who else could be here? She had told no one she was returning. No one, except perhaps the local estate agent. They reached the main hall, where dust-covered furniture and faded portraits lined the walls. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and damp wood. Evelyn's eyes caught a small door partially hidden behind a heavy tapestry. It was slightly ajar. Curiosity pulled her forward. Inside was a small study, walls lined with shelves packed with leather-bound books and yellowed documents. A large oak desk stood near the window, cluttered with old letters and a faded photograph of a stern-looking man. Evelyn recognized him immediately. Her grandfather. Clara wandered over to a window and stared out at the wild gardens beyond. "Mom," she said softly, "why did you never tell me about this place?" Evelyn smiled sadly. "Because some stories are hard to tell. Because some places hold memories we want to forget." Her fingers trembled as she picked up a leather-bound journal from the desk. The cover was cracked and worn, but the pages inside were surprisingly intact. She opened it to the first page and read the neat, looping handwriting. "It's my great-grandfather's journal," Evelyn whispered. "It might tell us more about this portrait, and about our family." They sat down together and began to read. The journal spoke of a man torn between loyalty and love, a secret relationship that could ruin a name, and a woman whose fate had been erased from every record. Evelyn's heart ached. The clues were there, hidden in words that had survived time's passage. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from the stairs. Evelyn and Clara looked up. At the doorway stood a tall figure, his face partly shadowed. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. Evelyn recognized him instantly. "Hugo," she said. "The curator from the local museum." He stepped inside, eyes scanning the room, then softened. "I wanted to meet you. There is much you do not know." The past was catching up with Evelyn faster than she had imagined. And the secrets of Ravenscar Hall were only just beginning to surface. Hugo Thorne closed the door behind him and studied Evelyn with a careful gaze. His presence filled the small study like a shadow, as though he carried the weight of Ravenscar Hall itself. Evelyn felt a mixture of wariness and curiosity. "I have spent years researching the Ashcombe family," Hugo began. "There are stories in this village that no one speaks of aloud. The ones buried with shame and fear." Evelyn glanced at Clara, whose fingers tightened around her mother's hand. "What kind of stories?" she asked, voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. Hugo pulled a worn leather folder from his satchel and laid it on the desk. Inside were old letters, faded photographs, and newspaper clippings yellowed by time. "This is what I've gathered," he said. "The Ashcombes were once one of the most respected families in Yorkshire. But a secret tore them apart, one that involves the woman in your portrait." Evelyn leaned forward, her heart pounding. Who is she? That woman was Eleanor Ashcombe, your great-great-grandmother, Hugo explained. Her story was erased because of what she did. The family wanted to protect their name, but it came at a terrible cost. Clara's eyes widened. What did she do? Hugo hesitated. She defied the family's expectations. She fell in love with a man they considered unsuitable. Their union was forbidden, and when Eleanor became pregnant, the family took drastic measures. Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine. What measures? The child was hidden. The lineage was altered. Official records were rewritten. For generations, no one spoke of Eleanor or her descendants. It was as if she never existed. Evelyn's mind raced. Could it be true? Was her own existence part of this hidden history? Hugo looked at her with sympathy. I wanted you to know the truth before it's too late. Ravenscar Hall holds many secrets, and you are part of them. The weight of his words settled in the room like a thick fog. Evelyn glanced at the portrait once more. The pale eyes seemed to watch her, waiting for her to uncover what had long been buried. Outside, the wind howled through the trees. The past was no longer silent. The following morning, Evelyn awoke before dawn. The gray light seeped through the heavy curtains, casting long shadows across the room. She felt restless, as though the house itself was urging her to dig deeper. After a simple breakfast, Evelyn and Clara returned to the study. Hugo was already there, waiting with a careful expression. He held a small worn book in his hands. This was found behind a loose brick in the garden wall, Hugo explained. A diary belonging to Eleanor Ashcombe. Evelyn took the fragile book, its leather cover cracked and delicate. The pages were yellowed but filled with neat handwriting, sometimes hurried, sometimes calm. She ran her fingers gently over the first lines. My name is Eleanor, she read aloud. I write these words in secret, for if they are found, my family's name and honor will be lost forever. Clara leaned closer, whispering, What did she say? Evelyn's voice faltered. She spoke of love, of betrayal, and a hope that one day her story would be heard. The diary revealed Eleanor's forbidden love for a local historian named Thomas Reed. Their meetings had been stolen moments beneath the stars, whispers in the dark. But Eleanor's family had found out, and their fury was swift and merciless. One entry chilled Evelyn more than the rest. Tonight, I hid my child in the cellar beneath Ravenscar. If I am to lose everything, I will at least protect what is mine. Evelyn looked up sharply. The cellar. Hugo nodded. A place no one visits anymore. Some say it's cursed. Clara's eyes widened with fear. Mom, what if it's still there? Evelyn's heart thundered. The secret of Ravenscar Hall was closer than she ever imagined. The truth was buried beneath the floorboards, waiting to be uncovered. The day stretched heavy and gray as Evelyn, Clara, and Hugo prepared to explore the cellar beneath Ravenscar Hall. The old house creaked and groaned with age, its walls holding secrets and memories too stubborn to fade. Evelyn's fingers trembled as she found the loose floorboard in the drawing room, the one mentioned in the diary. Hugo's flashlight revealed a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. The air grew cooler and damp, the faint smell of earth and stone filling their nostrils. Be careful, Hugo whispered. No one has been down here for decades. Clara clung to her mother's side, eyes wide but determined. Evelyn swallowed her fear and led the way down the uneven steps, the beam of light cutting through thick shadows. At the bottom, the cellar was vast, with ancient wooden beams supporting the ceiling. Dust lay thick on crates and barrels forgotten by time. But in one corner, obscured by a tattered cloth, stood a small cradle carved from dark oak. Evelyn's breath caught. Could this be the very cradle Eleanor spoke of? The cradle that held the child her family tried to erase? As Evelyn moved the cloth aside, a small, faded bundle lay within. She hesitated, then carefully lifted it. Wrapped in worn linen was a bundle of old letters tied with a crimson ribbon, a simple silver locket, and a photograph faded by years but still showing the delicate face of a baby. Who is this? Clara asked softly. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. Someone who was hidden away. Someone forgotten. Suddenly, a noise echoed from the far end of the cellar, a faint scuffling, like footsteps or something shifting. Hugo snapped his head towards the sound. We are not alone. The beam of light darted toward the noise, revealing a shadow disappearing behind a stack of crates. "Who's there?" Evelyn called out, voice steadier than she felt. No answer came, only silence thick with tension. Evelyn knew this was just the beginning. Ravenscar Hall was waking, its secrets no longer willing to sleep. The eerie silence settled once more in the cellar, but Evelyn's heart pounded like a relentless drum. The shadow had vanished, but the weight of unseen eyes pressed upon them. Hugo moved cautiously, shining his light toward every dark corner. "There's more here than just forgotten memories," he said quietly. Evelyn unfolded one of the letters from the bundle. The ink faded but still legible. "To my dearest Eleanor. I fear the walls around Ravenscar keep more than bricks and mortar. They hide secrets that could tear us apart. Trust no one but me." Clara leaned in, her voice trembling. "Who wrote that?" Evelyn glanced up. "Thomas Reed, Eleanor's secret love." The letters revealed a web of betrayal. Eleanor's family had conspired to erase her child's existence, fearful of scandal and disgrace. Thomas's words spoke of a plan to protect the child, to keep the truth alive against all odds. Suddenly, a soft sound came from above, a faint tapping, like a message being sent from one shadow to another. Evelyn's mind raced. The past was not done with Ravenscar Hall. It whispered warnings, and those who ignored them did so at their peril. Outside, the wind howled against the stone walls. Inside, secrets stirred, threatening to burst free after decades of silence. That evening, the storm rolled in over Ravenscar Hall, rattling the windows and sending a chill through the ancient walls. Evelyn sat by the fireplace, clutching the silver locket from the cellar, its cold weight a reminder of the mystery still unfolding. Clara was asleep upstairs, exhausted from the day's discoveries. Hugo had gone to check the grounds, promising to return soon. Suddenly, the door creaked open. A figure stepped into the flickering firelight. Tall, cloaked, face shadowed but unmistakably familiar. "Margaret," Evelyn whispered, her breath catching. Margaret Ashcombe, the family matriarch, had arrived unexpectedly. "I see you found my little secret," Margaret said, voice low and sharp. "You should have left well enough alone." Evelyn stood, heart pounding. "Why did you hide the truth all these years?" Margaret's eyes glinted with cold fury. "To protect this family. Some truths are too dangerous." Evelyn's hand tightened around the locket. "Protecting secrets only buries the pain deeper." Margaret laughed bitterly. "Pain? You know nothing of pain." Before Evelyn could respond, Margaret turned and disappeared into the shadows, leaving a silence that screamed louder than words. The mask of family honor was falling away, revealing wounds deeper than anyone dared admit. The past was alive, and it demanded reckoning. Dawn broke over Ravenscar Hall, the storm finally passing and casting pale light across the estate. Evelyn stood by the grand window, the silver locket resting in her palm, a symbol of the past she was finally ready to face. Clara tugged at her sleeve, eyes bright with questions. Evelyn smiled softly, feeling a new strength in her chest. In the library, the old portrait of Eleanor Ashcombe seemed to watch over them with quiet dignity. The hidden cradle, the secret letters, Margaret's warnings, all pieces of a puzzle coming together. Evelyn knew the truth would not erase the scars, but it could finally bring them out of shadow. She would tell Clara everything, the story of love, betrayal, and hope that had shaped their family. As the sun rose higher, a gentle breeze fluttered through the open window, carrying with it the soft strains of a forgotten melody, a lullaby that once cradled a lost child. Ravenscar Hall was no longer a prison of secrets. It was a home where the past and present could finally meet in peace. And Evelyn felt, for the first time in years, that she could begin again.